Difficult people are an inevitable part of life. Whether it's a challenging coworker, a toxic friend, or a frustrating family member, we all have to navigate complex interpersonal situations. The ancient philosophy of Stoicism, particularly the wisdom of Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, offers practical strategies for dealing with these challenges in a way that preserves our own peace and integrity. In this video, we'll explore 10 powerful Stoic lessons from Marcus Aurelius that can help us handle difficult people with grace, resilience, and wisdom. You'll learn Stoic techniques for managing your emotions, setting healthy boundaries, communicating effectively, and finding opportunities for growth in the face of adversity. Thank you for watching. Make sure to stay tuned until the end of the video to fully absorb this powerful Stoic wisdom that has endured for centuries. Get ready to change the way you deal with difficult people and cultivate unshakable inner strength. Number 10. Remember that all people, even difficult ones, are facing their own struggles. It's easy to demonize someone who is behaving poorly, to see them as inherently bad or malicious. But the reality is often much more complex. Every person, even the most frustrating ones, are fighting their own battles that we can't see. They may be struggling with painful emotions, challenging life circumstances, or unresolved trauma. Their difficult behavior is often a symptom of their own suffering. This doesn't excuse hurtful actions, but it can help us approach them with more understanding and less reactivity. When someone is lashing out or being unreasonable, we can pause and consider what might be driving their behavior. Are they feeling scared, insecure, or overwhelmed? Are they dealing with stressors in their personal life that are spilling over into their interactions? Aurelius suggests, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. In other words, difficult behavior often stems from ignorance or confusion, not inherent malice. When we can see the humanity behind the difficulty, it becomes easier to respond with compassion. This might look like taking a deep breath before reacting to a frustrating email, or offering a kind word to a coworker who is clearly having a tough day. It might mean setting aside our own ego and trying to genuinely understand where the other person is coming from. Importantly, compassion doesn't mean being a pushover or tolerating mistreatment. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of maintaining healthy boundaries and practicing self-respect. Aurelius advises, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. We can feel compassion for someone's struggles while still firmly communicating our own needs and limits. We might say something like, I understand that you're under a lot of stress right now, but it's not okay to yell at me. Let's talk when we've both had a chance to calm down. Or, I care about you and I'm here to support you, but I can't continue this conversation if you keep insulting me. Balancing compassion with boundaries is a delicate art, but it's a key aspect of Stoic wisdom. It allows us to maintain our own peace and integrity while still extending understanding to others. It recognizes that we are all imperfect, struggling beings deserving of patience and kindness. Practicing compassion isn't always easy, especially when someone is consistently difficult. It requires us to continually check our own judgments and reactions, to look for the deeper story beneath the surface. But with time and intention, we can make it a habit. Next time you're dealing with a challenging person, take a moment to remember Aurelius's words. Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question. What fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? Look for the shared humanity, the common struggles. Respond with as much understanding as you can muster, while still honoring your own boundaries. In doing so, you embody the Stoic ideal of living with wisdom, justice, and benevolence, even in the face of life's interpersonal challenges. Number 9. Cultivate inner peace through practices like meditation. Meditation isn't about stopping all thoughts or reaching some blissful state. Rather, it's a practice of observing our thoughts and emotions with a sense of detachment. As we sit quietly and focus on our breath, we begin to notice how our mind constantly generates judgments, worries, and reactions. Over time, we learn to see these mental events as just that, temporary phenomena passing through our awareness, not the absolute truth of reality. This practice is incredibly valuable when dealing with difficult people. When someone triggers a strong emotional reaction in us, it's easy to get swept up in that feeling and lash out or become overwhelmed. But if we have a regular meditation practice, we're better able to step back and observe our reaction with a sense of perspective. We can notice the anger or hurt arising, but not let it control our actions. In addition to meditation, the Stoics also valued journaling as a tool for self-reflection and emotional processing. Aurelius's famous work, Meditations, was essentially his personal journal, a collection of thoughts and reminders to himself on how to live with wisdom and virtue. Writing down our experiences and emotions can help us gain clarity and insight, especially when dealing with interpersonal challenges. When we journal about a difficult interaction, we give ourselves space to express our raw feelings without acting on them impulsively. We can reflect on the situation from different angles, consider the other person's perspective, and brainstorm skillful ways to respond. Journaling can also help us identify patterns in our own reactions and areas where we need to grow. Another powerful way to cultivate inner peace is by regularly spending time in nature. The Stoics believe that connecting with the natural world helps put our personal concerns into perspective. When we're surrounded by the vastness of the ocean, the majesty of mountains, or the intricate beauty of a forest, our problems can seem much smaller. Nature also has a calming effect on our nervous system. Research shows that spending time in green spaces reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, and improves mood. When we're dealing with difficult people, it's easy to get trapped in a cycle of negative thinking and reactivity. Taking a walk in a park, tending a garden, or even just sitting under a tree can help break that cycle and restore a sense of balance. Ultimately, the goal of these practices is to develop what the Stoics called euthymia, a state of contentment, equanimity, and good spirits. When we have a strong inner foundation of peace, we're less easily shaken by the words and actions of others. We can respond to challenges with grace, wisdom, and resilience. As Aurelius reminds us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. By proactively cultivating positive states of mind through practices like meditation, journaling, and time in nature, we become the kind of people who can handle life's difficulties with ease. We may not be able to control the behavior of others, but we can always control our inner world. And that, the Stoics argue, is the key to true freedom and flourishing. Number 8, practice forgiveness and letting go of resentment. Think about a time someone treated you unfairly or unkindly. Perhaps a friend betrayed your trust, or a coworker took credit for your work. In the immediate aftermath, you likely felt a surge of righteous anger. But what happened as you continued to dwell on the offense? Did your anger actually resolve the situation or make you feel better in the long run? Probably not. Aurelius observed, "You will find rest from vain fancies if you perform every act in life as though it were your last." In other words, life is too short and uncertain to waste time stewing in resentment. Every moment we spend replaying old hurts is a moment we could be finding joy and purpose in the present. This is where forgiveness comes in. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning bad behavior or allowing people to mistreat you repeatedly. It simply means making a conscious choice to release the anger and resentment you're holding towards someone. As Aurelius put it, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Forgiveness is a process, not a single decision. It starts with recognizing that anger is harming you more than the person who wronged you. They have likely moved on with their life, while you are still carrying the weight of resentment. Aurelius reminds us, how much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only at what he does himself, to make it just and holy. The next step is to practice empathy and understanding. This doesn't mean excusing the other person's actions, but simply recognizing that they, like all humans, are flawed and struggling in their own ways. Aurelius suggests, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? Seeing our common humanity can soften our anger. Finally, make a conscious choice to let go of the anger and resentment. This can involve practices like meditation, journaling, or therapy. It may also mean having a conversation with the person who wronged you, not necessarily to reconcile, but to express your feelings and find closure. Ultimately, forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. As Aurelius says, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Forgiveness is not always easy, especially when the offense is deep. But holding on to anger is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. It only corrodes your own peace of mind. By practicing forgiveness, you free yourself from the burden of resentment and create space for more positive emotions and experiences. As Aurelius wisely advises, it is in our power to have no opinion about a thing and not to be disturbed in our soul. For things themselves have no natural power to form our judgments. Choose to form judgments that serve your well-being and growth. Choose forgiveness, again and again, as an act of strength and self-care. In doing so, you embody the Stoic ideal of inner freedom, even in the face of life's inevitable hurts and provocation. Number 7. Find ways to minimize contact with toxic individuals. Toxic individuals can take many forms. The endlessly negative coworker, the friend who constantly stirs up drama, the family member who belittles and manipulates. While occasional difficult interactions are a part of life, consistently spending time with these kinds of people can be deeply damaging to our mental and emotional well-being. Aurelius warns, "You have endured countless troubles because you weren't contented to let your ruling center do what it was made for." In other words, when we allow toxic people too much influence over our minds and emotions, we stray from our own path and purpose. We get caught up in their negativity and chaos rather than focusing on living according to our values. Therefore, the Stoics counsel that it's wise to create distance from these individuals when possible. This doesn't necessarily mean completely cutting them out of your life, although in extreme cases that may be necessary. But it does mean being deliberate about the time and energy you give them. For example, if you have a consistently negative colleague, you might limit your interactions to strictly necessary work matters. Politely excuse yourself from gossip sessions or complaining. If you have a friend who always seems to be in the midst of a crisis, you might set boundaries around how much time you spend listening to their venting. Kindly suggest they also seek support from a therapist or other resources. With family members, creating distance can be trickier, but it's still possible to set boundaries. You might limit visits or phone calls to a frequency you can handle. When interactions become toxic, you can calmly end the conversation. I'm not comfortable with where this discussion is going, so I'm going to say goodbye for now. Remember, you're not obligated to absorb someone else's negativity, even if you love them. The key is to be protective of your own well-being. As Aurelius reminds us, the tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do. You can't control a toxic person's behavior, but you can control how much space you give it in your life. This doesn't mean completely shutting yourself off or never dealing with difficult people. The Stoics believed in engaging with the world and fulfilling our duties, but they also recognized the importance of discernment, choosing carefully where we focus our efforts. As Aurelius put it, it is essential for you to remember that the attention you give to any action should be in due proportion to its worth. Minimizing contact with toxic people is an act of self-care and wisdom. By limiting your exposure, you protect your peace of mind and free up energy to focus on the relationships and pursuits that truly matter. It's not always easy, but it's a powerful way to apply Stoic principles to modern challenges. Number 6. Look for learning opportunities in challenging interactions. When faced with a difficult person, it's easy to focus solely on the negative aspects of the situation. However, if we shift our perspective, we can begin to see these interactions as opportunities to practice virtues like patience, tolerance, and emotional regulation. Every time we navigate a challenging conversation with grace and wisdom, we strengthen these invaluable skills. For example, let's say you have a colleague who consistently makes snide comments and undermines your ideas in meetings. It's a frustrating situation, but it's also a chance to practice staying composed under pressure. Can you remain calm and professional despite your colleagues' jabs? Can you find ways to assert yourself confidently without descending into pettiness? Each time you manage this interaction skillfully, you enhance your resilience and self-control. Or perhaps you have a family member with very different political views and conversations often devolve into heated arguments. Again, while unpleasant, this is an opportunity to practice tolerance and open-mindedness. Can you listen to their perspective with genuine curiosity even if you disagree? Can you communicate your own views assertively but respectfully? Engaging with different viewpoints, especially when they challenge us, is how we grow and learn. Difficult people can also be mirrors, reflecting back parts of ourselves we may not want to see. Aurelius suggests, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I'm about to criticize? Perhaps that annoying coworker reminds you of your own insecurities, or that argumentative relative reflects your own stubborn streak. By observing our reactions to others, we can gain valuable self-insight and areas for growth. This doesn't mean that dealing with difficult people is pleasant, or that we should seek out these interactions unnecessarily. But when they do occur, we can choose to approach them as opportunities for practice and self-study. Aurelius reminds us, our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions, because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The next time you're dreading an interaction with a difficult person, remember that you have the power to find value and purpose in the situation. Set an intention to use the interaction as a chance to practice Stoic virtues and to learn more about yourself. With this perspective, even the most challenging people can become our greatest teachers, propelling us towards wisdom, patience, and inner strength. Number 5. Choose your battles wisely. One of the key insights of Stoic philosophy is that our time and energy are limited and precious resources. We can't afford to waste them on trivial matters or unnecessary conflicts. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is essential for you to remember that the attention you give to any action should be in due proportion to its worth, for then you won't tire and give up if you aren't busying yourself with lesser things beyond what should be allowed." This principle is especially relevant when dealing with difficult people. In the course of a day, we may encounter many minor irritations: a rude comment, a thoughtless action, a difference of opinion. It's tempting to engage with every single one, to argue our point or demand an apology. But is that truly the best use of our finite inner resources? The Stoics counsel that we should choose our battles wisely. Before engaging in a conflict, ask yourself, is this issue truly important? Does it significantly impact my well-being or that of others? Is there a realistic chance of a positive outcome? Or am I just trying to be right or prove a point? If something is a genuine problem that needs addressing, then by all means engage skillfully. Stand up for yourself, set a boundary, have a difficult conversation. But if it's a minor annoyance that will ultimately make little difference, consider simply letting it go. As Aurelius put it, how much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it. This doesn't mean you're a doormat or that you never push back against poor behavior. It simply means being strategic and discerning with your energy. Save your efforts for when they really matter, rather than exhausting yourself on every tiny disagreement. It also means accepting that you can't control everything. People will sometimes act in ways you dislike, and that's okay. Aurelius reminds us, begin each day by telling yourself, today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. These are inevitable parts of human interactions. We can't avoid them completely, but we can choose how much power we give them over our peace of mind. Next time you find yourself gearing up for a fight with a difficult person, pause and ask yourself if this battle is truly worth your time and energy. If not, practice the Stoic art of letting go. Redirect your efforts towards the people and pursuits that truly enrich your life. As Aurelius counsels, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself and your way of thinking. Choose those thoughts and those battles wisely. Number 4, set clear boundaries and communicate them assertively. Setting and enforcing healthy boundaries is essential for dealing with difficult people, and it's a skill the Stoics emphasized. While we can't control others' behavior, we can absolutely control what we will and will not accept in our own lives. As Marcus Aurelius put it, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When someone repeatedly oversteps, whether it's a colleague dumping excess work on you or a friend pressuring you into uncomfortable situations, it's crucial to communicate your boundaries clearly. This can be challenging, especially for those who tend towards people-pleasing. But allowing mistreatment to continue unchecked leads to mounting resentment and stress. The key is to be assertive but respectful. You don't need to lash out angrily or make harsh accusations. Instead, calmly explain what you need. For example, "I value our working relationship, but I'm not able to take on tasks outside my job description," or "Your comments about my appearance make me uncomfortable. Please stop making remarks like that." Notice this language is firm but not aggressive. You are not attacking the other person, merely stating your position confidently. Aurelius counseled, "Speak the truth as you see it, but with kindness, humility, and without hypocrisy. Aim to be direct and honest while still preserving the dignity of everyone involved. In some cases, you may need to back up your words with concrete actions. If a friend continues to violate your boundaries after you've communicated them, you may need to spend less time with that person or end the relationship altogether. If a coworker keeps overstepping despite your requests, you may need to involve a supervisor or HR. The goal is not to be excessively rigid, but to ensure a basic level of respect. Setting boundaries can feel daunting, but ultimately, it's an act of self-respect and self-care. Aurelius reminds us, "Reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears." When we tolerate poor treatment, we injure our own well-being. By standing up for ourselves skillfully, we protect our peace of mind. Remember, setting a boundary is not a hostile act. You are not saying the other person is bad or wrong. You are simply clarifying what works for you and what doesn't. Approached with Stoic wisdom and kindness, boundary setting is a tool for creating healthier, more harmonious relationships and a happier life. It's not always easy in the moment, but with practice, it becomes a powerful skill for navigating interpersonal challenges. Number 3, maintain your composure and respond calmly. Remaining composed in the face of a difficult person is a hallmark of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics emphasize that while we can't control others' actions, we always have a choice in how we respond. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When someone is behaving unreasonably or aggressively, it's easy to get triggered and react with anger or frustration. However, the Stoics counsel that this only makes the situation worse. Lashing out with harsh words or rash actions typically escalates conflict and hands control of your emotional state to the other person. Instead, Aurelius advises when provoked, keep yourself in check and do not allow your emotion to get the better of you. Take a deep breath. Create space between the triggering event and your response. Choose to act from a place of calm reason rather than heated emotion. This allows you to think more clearly and craft a measured, strategic response. Imagine someone sending you an angry email full of personal attacks and baseless accusations. The knee-jerk reaction would be to fire back an equally hostile message. But does that actually resolve the problem skillfully? Probably not. A Stoic approach would be to step back, let your anger subside, and reply professionally, sticking to the facts without escalating the conflict. You may need to be assertive and set firm boundaries, but you can do so without losing control. Staying composed does not mean you abandon your own needs or fail to address unacceptable behavior, but it ensures you do so thoughtfully and effectively, rather than in a reactive, unconstructive way. People often mirror the energy we put out. If you respond to hostility with more hostility, the situation will likely keep deteriorating. But if you can remain calm and reasonable, you have a much better chance of diffusing tension and finding a good solution. Maintaining composure in trying situations is challenging and takes practice. Aurelius suggests preparing for difficult encounters in advance, reflecting on how you want to show up, the kind of person you want to be. When your commitment to equanimity is tested, pause, reconnect with your deepest values, and respond from that clear, centered place. With time, you can make emotional regulation a habit, allowing you to deal gracefully with even the thorniest people and situations. Number 2, practice empathy and try to understand their perspective. Empathy is a powerful tool for navigating interpersonal challenges, and it was a key practice of the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius frequently reflected on the importance of trying to see things from the other person's point of view, even when that perspective clashed with his own. When faced with a difficult person, take a step back and aim to look at the situation through their eyes. Ask yourself, what might be motivating their behavior? Are they under stress or dealing with struggles you can't see? What personal history or beliefs could be shaping their actions? Considering these questions can give insight into the roots of the conflict. You don't have to agree with the person's perspective or condone hurtful actions, but by making a good faith effort to understand where they are coming from, you can often find empathy and common ground. Perhaps you'll recognize that their difficult behavior comes from a place of pain, or that there is some validity to their point of view, even if you ultimately disagree. This empathetic approach does not mean being a pushover or failing to stand up for yourself, but it can decrease your own frustration and reactivity. If you can see the human behind the difficult behavior, it's easier to respond with patience and wisdom rather than anger. It may open the door to compromise, or at least to disengagement rather than hostility. Aurelius also noted that practicing empathy is valuable for our own peace of mind. In his meditations, he observes, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? When we see our own imperfections and struggles reflected in others, it becomes easier to respond with compassion. Empathy takes deliberate practice, especially when dealing with difficult people. But as Aurelius and the Stoics recognized, making the effort to understand others' perspectives is a powerful way to reduce conflict and live with more patience, skill, and tranquility. Number 1, remember that you can only control your own thoughts. One of the core tenets of Stoic philosophy, as expressed by the great Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius, is that we have control only over our own mind, our judgments, perceptions, and reactions. We do not have control over external events or other people. When dealing with a difficult person, it's natural to become frustrated and want to change their irritating or irrational behavior. However, Aurelius reminds us that this is ultimately futile. No matter how much we may want them to act differently, the only thing we can actually control is our own response to the situation. Rather than wasting energy trying to alter someone else's actions, the Stoic approach is to focus inward. Ask yourself how you can navigate this challenging interpersonal situation with reason, calm, and wisdom. Can you find a constructive way to communicate with this person? Set boundaries to minimize conflict? Or simply maintain your composure and not let their words or behavior disturb your equanimity? Remember, you cannot control how others act, but you always have the power to control your own mind and choose a skillful response. Focus your efforts there, as that is where you can actually make an impact. With practice, you can learn to deal with even the most difficult people gracefully by mastering your own internal state. This is the path to inner peace regardless of outer disturbances. If you are listening to this, thank you for staying till the end. If you feel any of these Stoic lessons resonated with you today, feel free to start a Stoic discussion in the comments. I welcome Stoic discussions as they are what the great Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca advised for. As we stated before, if you're interested in Stoicism and self-improvement through the great Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, then our Stoic newsletter, which you can join in the description, is perfect for you. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, and if you want more content like this, subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you for watching, and as always, I hope you find peace and serenity in the Stoic ways.